Live in association with New Toyota Etios.
This is TV18 and you're watching CNBC TV18. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.
India's young demographic profile, large talent pool and expanding science base is attracting a number of companies from industries ranging from IT, telecommunications, electronics and automobiles to set up their R&D centers. However, with India's R&D spend accounting only 2.1% of the global R&D expenditure, a lot is required to spur basic and industrial R&D activity to make India the global destination for R&D. FICCI, in association with the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, organized the Global R&D Summit 2013 Destination India in New Delhi. The summit aimed to create a platform to explore new collaborations, effective partnerships and innovative models of engagement between public-private sector, industry and academia, while the two-day summit included a host of programs like panel discussions, thematic tracks, an exhibition by key stakeholders and the launch of a special initiative by Rolls-Royce. Day 1 began with plenary speeches by leaders from various sectors who shared their views on the need for R&D in the country.
We're here for a very important subject, the area of research and development in our country. And looking at where we stand today, there's clearly a lot that needs to be done. India's current spend on scientific and technological R&D stands at under 1%, 0.98% of GDP. Our research output stands at 3.5% of global research output. We have under 2% of the global share in the full-time equivalent of research professionals around the world. So as we see it at FICCI, the first issue on India's public spend in R&D being below averages in countries like China, South Korea and most of the Western countries requires us, with government, to stick to this commitment for a steady increase in budget outlay for R&D. The second issue, India's private sector investment in R&D being less than 25% of the overall, would require us to create an aggressive policy environment for boosting private sector investment in R&D. And the third area, which is the considerable lack in industry, academia, public lab linkages in the R&D ecosystem, which is leading to some of the low competitiveness. What we need to do is introduce structured platforms for open collaboration between all R&D stakeholders under different S&T sectors so that the synergy of public, private and basic applied R&D happens. So the ecosystem for R&D is what we have to work on. We know we have the skills, we know we have the capability.
Whenever we talk about innovations, in the preceding 15 years, people focused on the process of innovation. How do we innovate? And how do we ensure the return for that investment? So the investor and the inventor priorities of innovation systems are the points of focus. And such innovations backed by a huge capital may bypass many other people. Therefore, affordability of innovation is an important part. Most of us who come from societies where per capita availability of resources is high, we usually focus on quality, excellence and higher parameters. Where the per capita availability of resource is lower, then the society is hardwired to optimize resources. So India's strength is in cost optimization. And I think in innovation subsystem of global R&D, I think there's an opportunity to connect the minds-on society of India, the cost optimization capability of our R&D support base, to link with such systems which optimize quality and add value through knowledge, and together we make it affordable, at the same time high value innovation in the process.
All the challenges that India faces in the 21st century are unprecedented in their scale and scope. We have no choice but to find solutions very rapidly, very effectively, and at the same time very equitably. It can only be done if we as a nation embrace and adopt a work culture that gives preeminence to R&D in every possible way. Only 20 R&D centers and 13 headquarters were brought to India, which was just 2% of the total FDI gained by the country in 2011. Now, while we plan to boost R&D in other sectors, we've got to talk about R&D in education, which is obviously vital. Already we know that in comparison with many other developing countries, we're still lagging behind when it comes to technical colleges, vocational training centers. We just don't have enough of them. We need to change this, and the MHRD has been pushing very hard for universities to put more money into research. And let me say to FICCI, we'd like to see more private sector money coming into research as well. Why not? Why can't the private sector go to universities and say, you got some bright students, if you can have them work on this and this kind of problem, this will be of interest to us. We might be able to share the profits from such research with you, and we might be able to hire these people ourselves later. This kind of academia-industry collaboration just doesn't happen enough. We all know R&D requires time to flourish. Connecting the dots between industrial need and academic curricula still needs to be done. Research can begin within the academic environment, but it must be fostered with the demands of industry. Now, they cannot function optimally in isolation. They have to work together. And so I really hope that industry will come forward, corporations will come forward to combine with academic institutions in India in order to pursue better R&D outcomes.
3D printing technology, which is really additive manufacturing. The advantage of additive manufacturing using the internet is that economy of scale doesn't bother you. You can customize a product. And for example, it was just beginning to happen, and I'm sure Indian industry must get into it very quickly. You are making mega prosthesis implants. You can tailor it to the individual instead of having standard sizes, because you can do many other products. Just beginning, I saw in Oak Ridge National Lab, using plastics, of course, is the easiest to do, but with titanium and all that. It has to be backed by robotics and other advanced technologies. So if you want to do this, India must have what I call established coherent synergy among academia, industry, and the government. You must have basic research. You can't create a superstructure of technology and manufacturing without a foundation of basic research. You can't create a superstructure without a foundation. That's why basic research becomes so important. But all this must combine. You must have all these R&D capabilities, but you must have manufacturing skills.
We're only contributing 2.1% of global R&D, and that's, I think, really underselling our potential. We have tremendous human resources. We have 17% of the world's brains, after all, and brains are what you need for R&D. As long as we can actually channel this in a more productive way, we can still become an R&D powerhouse.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
What economic data do you need to look at when trading commodity derivatives?
You need to look at international data, US, Japan, Europe and India. In India, currencies movement. In US, there are a lot of economic data keep coming on that, which we need to watch on regular basis.
BSc and CNBC TV 18 present The Derivative Show at these times only on CNBC TV 18.
Presented by BSc Investors Protection Fund.
Experience perfection. Bravia 4K. Who says you can't profit from markets on a weekend? Tune in to CNBC TV 18 on Saturday and Sunday mornings to prepare yourself for the week ahead and get a head start that you will profit from. Taking stock at these times only on CNBC TV 18.
Taking Stock, brought to you by Yes Bank Savings Accounts.
macros behind the micro market movements on Markets and Macros. At these times, only on CNBC TV 18.
MCX Stock Exchange, India's new stock exchange, presents Markets and Macros
in association with Everready and the new Nissan Micra.
This week on the Inclusive India series, we bring you the stories of 3 organizations who are determined to not let India's demographic dividend turn into a dilemma.
This program is delivered through the local micro entrepreneurs whom we recruit, who are local carpenters, plumbers, electricians. We train them to be instructors.
Whenever you want to take a program which will impact a large number of people, it has to be done with a very strong partnership with the government.
At these timings, only on CNBC TV 18.
Presented by ICICI Foundation. Print partner The Caravan, Open, Hindu Business Line and Entrepreneur.
Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.
On the occasion, Dr. Shashi Tharoor inaugurated the exhibition and also released the Vicky Patel Knowledge Paper on India's emerging competitiveness as the destination of global R&D. The exhibition provided a perfect platform for corporate R&D centers, research labs, scientific and technical institutions and government departments to showcase their path-breaking R&D initiatives and R&D support programs. In addition to the exhibition, the summit also witnessed the launch of an Open Innovation Challenge by Rolls-Royce in partnership with FICCI. The exhibition and launch was followed by a series of panel discussions. The first panel was titled Boosting R&D Investments of Indian Industries, Incentives, Impediments and Future Strategies, where experts from academia, industry and public-private sector discussed the various challenges, opportunities and strategies for future R&D.
Mr. Rao, India is known for its human capital, skilled workforce, and we say India is developing in its innovation and things like that. But can you shed some light on some of the government policies that are encouraging innovation for the industry?
It's actually 1980s when R&D was being promoted. Actually, that was the time when the technology policy statement was announced in 1983, and in-house R&D system was to be encouraged. So that was the time when the R&D, many companies started setting up their R&D centers and they were seeking recognition of DSIR. And that was the time when especially importing used to be very difficult. So import license was a very difficult thing to get. Then government just to promote research and development, what they said was that, okay, if you are doing R&D, then if you need some imports for R&D, then you don't need an import license. So that was the way the non-fiscal incentive started. In 1997, one of the biggest advantage of doing R&D was announced by the Government of India. That is about 125% tax rebate on the R&D expenditure incurred by a company.
Dr. Malhotra, you've been running an R&D center for quite a few years. Some of the challenges that you see that people setting up R&D departments would be facing, and maybe your thoughts on how they can be overcome.
Our major efforts are on development of the new refinery process technologies, development of new catalysts which will reduce the cost in our refineries, because otherwise we have been dependent so far in India on the technologies which come from overseas, and we really are trying to develop indigenous technologies to substitute them and making them more cost effective. But the major challenge which we are facing over there is the commercialization of the technologies, because even if we develop the technologies, it's not only outside commercialization, it is within the company also at times, we have to convince the refinery colleagues that this technology will really work and you should go for it. And when you are talking about commercialization of the technologies outside, people put a pre-qualification criteria. It has to be a proven technology, and obviously most of the time, proven technologies are outdated technologies as well. So that's a major issue we have to overcome.
Dr. Shashi Tharoor was speaking here, and he spoke about an idea of maybe industry getting together with academia, with the universities, and saying, say, 3, 4, 5 students, some of the students, research students at the university would do research on a certain topic that would be of interest to that company, and then maybe that company can absorb them once they finish their studies. Is that something that you think should be done?
These kind of schemes have been around for some time.
Right.
They are limited in scalability because if the companies have very good people, they find it very difficult to release them for the 4 or 5 years. PhD is a very long process. And if they are not employees of the company already, then in some sense they are not tied to your company. You know?
Right.
However, what we have done, and this is the first of its kind in the country, is we have built the IIT Madras Research Park.
Right.
And the first phase, about 55 companies are there in the building, about 4,000 square feet. And the companies that are there have only their research divisions there. Very often people are working as a team, people from the company, the faculty and the students. And the students get their higher degrees in the process.
Mr. Radhakrishnan, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about any company starts off small. And India has a very strong entrepreneurship, very strong startup culture, very strong SME culture. Do you see a lot of SMEs also coming to you for these kind of stuff?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, if you look into that, the industry base of DRDO, who are associated with the DRDO projects, out of the 1,000, more than 80% are SMEs.
Right.
Essentially, the SMEs are the first people to come to us. Our requirements are very small. Many times that large industries, it's not sufficient enough to, attractive enough for them to participate in the development projects. Our natural partners are, most of the cases, most of the development projects are SMEs.
Right.
And they have been traditional partners. They continue to work. We continue to support them also. We, as much as possible, will try to de-risk their investment.
Mr. Marathe, you at Reliance Industries are a consumer of R&D by way you consume IPs and things like that. So your thoughts on how have things changed over the years? What do you think is the way ahead?
If you look for the future where, if you want to talk about the sustainability and a growth, we definitely have a plans to, and we are doing a lot of things into that area, from moving from IP buyer to IP creator. And as Mr. Malhotra said, the one biggest challenge here is the basic research which is done. How do you scale it up? So what we have done is in recent past is we got an organization called Reliance Technology Group, where we have a research and we have got the engineers, the best of the engineers who can do the process design, who can do the process engineering. We have also built a huge research facility. The large part of it has already been commissioned.
I think all of us agreed that first of all there is strategic intent that industry must have, that why do we need R&D? There has to be an enabling culture which says that this is what closely relates to the why of doing new things.
Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.
Mr. Arya, what is your dream?
Like Intel, every vehicle should have at least one part, JBM part in those vehicles.
Catch SK Arya, who explains how JBM Group pioneered and revolutionized the Indian auto ancillary sector. HSBC and CNBC TV18 present Making It Big Season 4 at these times, only on CNBC TV18.
Brought to you by HSBC Commercial Banking.
These homes are all EMI proof. EMI proof means after the loan repayment, when the house is yours, it's still strong, as good as new. And to make these houses EMI proof, we engineers need power.
Ultratech Cement, the engineer's choice. Not just structures, it builds dreams.
When a crisis becomes a wake-up call, they answer. When passion becomes a country, they stand at the forefront. When faced with a challenge, they emerge victorious. Presenting the 3rd Taj Black Tie Charity Ball. Join the Taj Palace, New Delhi, as it continues a long and rich legacy of serving the community and celebrating those who serve our country. This August in New Delhi. Exclusive media partner, CNBC TV18. From new launches to hot deals, national price checks and trends, we bring you all the news in realty for the biggest voices in the business. On CNBC TV18's brand new show, Prime Property, your real estate ready reckoner, at these times on CNBC TV18.
Presented by Brigade Group. For a better quality of life, upgrade to Brigade.
Powered by BOP.in, world's trusted realty experts.
How big is the new big? It's as big as a sandwich and light as a feather. It's big to imagine and fun to share. And big on HD entertainment. And big enough to read all at once. The new Xperia Z Ultra. Big screen, big entertainment.
Sony. What economic data do you need to look at when trading commodity derivatives?
You need to look at international data, US, Japan, Europe and India. In India, currencies movement. In US, there are a lot of economic data keep coming on that, which we need to watch on regular basis.
BSC and CNBC TV 18 present The Derivative Show at these times only on CNBC TV 18.
Presented by BSC Investors Protection Fund.
Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable.
The two-day Global R&D Summit 2013 Destination India also catered to providing an insight into the advantage of good R&D through its panel discussion titled Creating Competitive Advantage Through R&D, Best Practices in Innovation, IP Management and Commercialization that focused on achieving competitiveness in R&D.
Let me start with Dr. Selvamurthy. How can academia boost innovation in young India?
To create that culture, the innovation culture, you need three entities. One is the academia to seed futuristic technologies. Then you need another R&D institution to translate that into a product, process or a technology. Third entity is industry. So all these three important stakeholders, they should not be in silos. There should be an integrated approach to innovation where all the three partners have constant dialogue and interaction.
What can be done to give a booster shot to innovation in India?
See, in India, we need to reduce cost of doing R&D. We need to do it at a low level, low cost. Now, in order to do this, if there are contract R&D labs that are fully equipped with good equipment and trained personnel that can take the science out of academia and turn it into application, it does a lot of advantages.
What's underway in the 12th five-year plan with, talking about R&D in India?
We have just approved the 12th five-year plan document where R&D goal is very clear. That is, the R&D policy of the governments is to serve the interest, the vision of the document, which is for faster, sustainable and more inclusive growth. Given that as a goal, we have various strategies, we have laid down various sector-specific, department-specific initiatives for that.
You've been working with a lot of Indian companies for R&D. Your perspective from the outside, how are we faring on the global front?
We feel that India has a tremendous future. I spent here 4 years as the Deputy Chief of Mission in the past, and I had a very good exposure to the vast pool of talent that India has. Now the question is how you utilize that, and that is really the key issue here. Now, I can give you a bit from our experience in Israel. We realized that precisely R&D, investment in R&D today is going to shape the tomorrow, how tomorrow is going to look like. And for us, that was a very important issue. So the investment in the human resources was in education, because this is the key factor.
Put in a culture of innovation in companies in India. What's your experience been like? How are we faring? What should we be doing to innovate better?
What I found culturally is that the Indian researchers will start out in a very cautious mode, deferring to their seniors, to the upper management. But with some small encouragement, they will begin to open up. And so there are things that we do at Reliance to systematically encourage that. Okay? So our department heads in research, we've redefined their role to be coach and mentor, to develop the skills in their group. The cultural effect in India is what's the status of a person who's high on the technical ladder, a person who's dedicated his life to engineering or science. Do they get the respect and the status that people who are in management positions would get?
A lot of infrastructural improvements have to take place in education, in creating a skilled workforce. At the same time, we need to have certain changes in, improvements in government policy so that more funds can be channelized.
As India gradually moves towards expanding its R&D efforts, events like FICCI and the Department of Science and Technology of the Government of India's Global R&D Summit 2013 Destination India will provide further impetus for public-private partnerships, international collaborations and R&D investments in the country.
I find amazingly huge momentum and excitement here, both from the private industrial sector in India, as well as the eager intention to be better connected and better networked with other institutions around the world from the university here. So I'm definitely impressed.
Focus.